Beowulf Chapter 5. This is on page 406 of your textbook. Beowulf has been king for 50 years when a dragon ravages his kingdom. The fire serpent gives Beowulf a wound that dooms him to death. It came to pass that blood-hardened, sharp-bladed battle swords slew King Hygelac, and in time Beowulf became king of Geatland. He was a wise, treasure-giving war king, and he ruled his realm well for 50 winters. But, suddenly, in the 50th year of Beowulf's rule, trouble struck Geatland. The sun, heaven's jewel, had glided over the land, and the bright heavens had darkened with the shadows of dusk. And then it had come to pass that a frightful fire serpent, shielded by the darkness, had soared into the night sky. And this savage serpent had flown over Geatland, swooping down over the villages and farms of the Geat folk, and like a fiery forge, it had spewed forth a blazing torrent of furious flames. These flames had killed the folk of town and country, and they had burned the buildings of the Geat folk down to smoldering coals and ashes. For the fire serpent's hard heart had become flooded with a surging sea swell of rage. And it came to pass that the dreaded dragon crowned itself king of the night, and its rule was a reign of terror. For night after night its fiery breath spread furious flames over the land. The dreaded dragon haunted lofty Eagle's Cliff, part of a high heath-covered headland that jutted out into the sea flood. Above Eagle's Cliff stood a steep stone mound, built as a tower-tall barrow in a bygone age, to hold all that was left of a high-born nobleman and his wealth. Beneath the stone barrow, and down the side of lofty Eagle's Cliff, lay a steep, secret footpath. This path had been hidden so cleverly that men had not known of it for 1,000 winters, and it led down the rough-hewn rock cliff to a barrow cave that lay hidden within the lower reaches of the cliffside. The barrow cave opened onto a rock shelf that rested safely above the sea flood, for a steep lower cliff wall protected it from the swollen and surging sea swell and from seafaring men. Still, the barrow builders had cleverly hidden its entrance. In a bygone age, the barrow hall had been a lofty earth cave that rose high inside the sea cliff. Giants had found this earth cave, and they had cleverly fashioned it into a fine earth hall. Inside the hall they had put up great stone arches, and they had supported them with stone pillars. This stonework held the earth wall in place. Many hundreds of winters ago it had come to pass that a lone warrior was the last living member of his clan. Long before, death, that dreaded destiny, had taken the lives of all his kinfolk, his hearth friends, and his war comrades. And so, he was the sole guardian of his clan's treasure rings. He knew that all men are doomed to die, and he knew that he would soon sleep the lasting sleep of his comrades and kinfolk. But before death took his life, he wanted to preserve the precious wealth of his high-born clan. And so, the warrior searched for a place to protect his treasure trove. It came to pass that he found the hidden footpath, and the path led him to the giant's earth hall. As soon as he saw this hall, he said, "I will store my clan's treasure trove in this well-built barrow hall. It is below the stone cliff and above the surging sea waves, and so it will be secret and safe." So the warrior spoke, and with these words he collected his clan's precious age-old treasures. He carried them down the secret footpath, and he hid them within that earth hall. And the treasure trove made a high heap upon the earth floor, for there were jewels and there were rings, for fingers and arms, of twisted gold. There were wondrous wall hangings, woven with golden thread. There were jeweled and gold-plated cups, bowls, and platters. And there were gold-plated war helmets, ring-meshed battle-coats, and gold-hilted, sharp-bladed battle swords. The lone warrior hid all of these treasures in the earth hall. And then, once again, he spoke. But this time, he unlocked his hoard of words. "Earth, hold now this high-born clan wealth, for its war comrades can no longer keep it. It was within your rich body that good men first found the gleaming gold," he declared, "and so, now I am returning your wealth to you. No one is left to shine the gold-plated bowl and the precious drinking cup, and the hard gold-plated war helmet is tarnished now, for those whose job it was to shine it sleep the lasting sleep. No one remains to wield the gleaming war-blade. The ring-meshed battle-shirt waits in vain to protect the warrior in battle. Both are decaying into dust. And the war gear that survived such strife, that withstood the crash of shining battle shields and the bite of blood-hardened sword blades will crumble, too. No one lives to enjoy the mead hall, to hear the harp song, to ride a horse, or to see the hawk. For death, that dreaded destiny, has destroyed all my kinfolk, all my hearth friends, and all my bold-hearted war comrades. Death has taken everyone in my clan, and my heart is flooded with sorrow." So the lone warrior spoke. And with these words he then protected his clan's treasure trove by placing a curse upon it. "May destruction and death, that dreaded destiny, follow whoever disturbs this hoard heap of treasures," he prayed, "and may my curse last until the day of doom." And it came to pass that soon thereafter death clutched at that warrior's heart and took him too, and for 700 winters no one touched that hoard heap of golden treasures. But then the fire serpent discovered the barrow hall, and it made that lonely lair its own. It coiled contentedly upon the golden goods, and it became the hoard guard of the age-old treasure trove. It passed countless hours enjoying its possessions, and it kept a silent and secret watch over them. It knew every treasure by sight, and before and after every sleep it counted each precious piece. In this way 300 winters passed peacefully for the serpent, for no one discovered the barrow and disturbed its life. But it came to pass that, in the 50th winter of Beowulf's reign, a slave angered the high-born nobleman who was his master. And seeing that his master's heart had flooded with a surging sea-swell of rage, the slave's heart flooded with terror, and fearing a lashing, he fled. Now that he had lost his home, he needed a secret hiding-place that would shelter him. He searched beneath the tower-tall stone mound on lofty Eagle's Cliff, and he stumbled upon that age-old, steep, secret footpath to the earth hall that lay hidden in the lower reaches of the stone cliff. He discovered its hidden entrance, and he took refuge within its stone walls. The slave did not know that the earth hall was a burial barrow from a bygone age, and so he was surprised to find a treasure trove of jewels, woven goldwork, gold-plated objects, and age-old battle gear. The hoard was heaped upon the ground, and a sleeping fire serpent was protecting it. When the slave saw the frightful fire serpent, his heart flooded with surging sea-swells of terror and panic. Near the serpent's head he noticed a glorious age-old goblet, jeweled and golden. He thought this shining treasure cup would serve him well, and so he stealthily crept up to the sleeping serpent, and he snatched the cup. Then, quick as the wind, he sped away from the dreaded dragon's den, and where it protected the slave, for it had not woven this to be his day of destiny. And so it came to pass that the slave offered his master the treasure cup. The slave hoped the goblet would purchase forgiveness and peace, and his master accepted the gift, for the age-old goblet was fine and rare. When the frightful fire serpent awoke, it counted each precious piece of its hoard heap, and it discovered that its glorious golden goblet was missing. Its hard heart flooded with surging swells of fear and rage, and so it frantically slithered here and there within the barrow hall, desperately searching for the treasure cup. It looked high and low. It looked in every dark corner. It looked beneath every bright banner, but it could not find the cup anywhere within its high stone hall. At last, the frightful fire serpent smelled the thief's footprints, and its hard heart flooded with a surging sea-swell of fury. Following the thief's scent, the serpent left its lonely lair, and it slithered, eagerly, along the rock-shelf, sniffing as it went. And as it sniffed, the serpent's thoughts turned from rage at the theft to the joy of revenge. The frightful fire serpent became determined to avenge the theft of its precious treasure cup. It would punish all the Weathergeats for one slave's crime. The winged dragon restlessly waited until the bright heavens had darkened with the shadows of dusk. Then it slithered out of its den. It spread its great wings, and it soared into the night sky. The dreaded dragon then flew over Geatland, swooping down over the villages and farms of the Geat folk, and like a fiery forge it spewed forth a blazing torrent of furious flames. These flames killed the folk of town and country, and burned the buildings of the Geat folk down to smoldering coals and ashes. The blazing fires cast their golden glow high into the heavens, displaying the serpent's savage strength far and wide, and the heart of every sea-geat flooded with a surging sea-swell of horror at the fire serpent's frightful fury and its dreadful deeds. When it came to pass that the sun, heaven's jewel, would soon shine forth over the land, the dreaded dragon flew back to its earth barrow, for it loved its secret stone hall and its hoard heap of golden treasures, and it trusted that its frightful war skill and the lonely location of its lair would secure its safety. But the fire serpent deceived itself. It was destined to live no longer than the treasure-giving war-king of the Weathergeats, for even as an old man, Beowulf was the shield and spear of the Geat folk. Beowulf, that best of kings, learned of the frightful fire serpent's ravaging raids first-hand, for the savage serpent attacked his own glorious gift hall. Quick as the wind, the tall-timbered mead hall was consumed in a bright blaze, and when Beowulf saw that the dragon's fiery breath had reduced his hall of heroes to smoldering coals and ashes, his heart flooded with surging sea-swells of grief and anger. He feared that he might have bitterly angered the eternal Lord, ruler of the world, by breaking some age-old law. And so Beowulf announced to his high-born noblemen that it was his duty to kill this frightful fire-fiend. "Oh, my lord, do not come face to face in combat this greedy gold-guard," they pleaded. "Let the savage fire-serpent lie safely in its lonely lair. Let it remain buried in its barrow-hall, that dark den, until the day of doom." So the best of the war-geats spoke, but they could not dissuade their treasure-giving war-king from this heroic act. They could not make their lord, the shepherd of the Geat folk and the shield and safeguard of warriors, accept their wise words. The Lord of Rings held to his high destiny, for he was a good king. "I am no longer a youth, but I will always be the shield and spear of the Geat folk," Beowulf declared, "and so I will now seek this savage serpent. But not with many war comrades, for I have no fear of fighting, nor do I fear the frightful fire serpent's great strength and battle skill. Many times I have been in great danger, but I have always been bold of heart and strong in strife, and I have always lived to tell the tale. I have slain many mighty sea serpents, and I killed Grendel and Grendel's mighty mother, and so I will now try to slay this frightful fire serpent, but I will risk no life but my own." So Beowulf spoke to his high-born noblemen, and then the old treasure-giving war-king of the Weathergeats commanded his smiths to create a new battle-shield for him, one of gleaming iron, for his gold-rimmed lindenwood shield could not protect him from the blazing breath of this frightful fire-fiend. Beowulf then chose 11 trusted war-comrades, the most bold of heart and strong in strife, to accompany him. The Lord of Rings had learned the cause of the savage fire-serpent's wrath, and so he ordered the thief to lead them to its lair. Fear gripped the hearts of most of those men, for the fire-serpent was a frightful foe, and only the most bold-hearted heroes would dare to come near its earth hall, for there he would have to face the dreaded dragon's flaming fury. Soon it came to pass that Beowulf and his band of trusted war-comrades arrived at the edge of lofty Eagle's Cliff, the headland cliff-wall high above the frightful fire-serpent's earth hall. And there Beowulf, the gold friend of the Sea-Geats, sat down and said farewell to his war-comrades. The old war-king had been bold of heart and strong in strife, but now his spirit was sad and restless within him. It was ready for death, that dreaded destiny. For where it would seek the treasure of his soul, and then death would separate his spirit from his flesh. And so the Lord of Rings, that bold shield-bearer, unlocked his word-hoard. "I remember how in my youth I braved countless battles in times of peril," he declared, "and now, if the savage fire-serpent will leave its lonely lair and seek me, I will fight it. My hand and Nagling's bloodthirsting battle-blade will wage war for the treasure trove. Now, if Weird, ruler of all, will permit, my stout sword will sing its greedy war-song, and then I will win honor and glory, for this is a deed of daring and danger. And so my bold heart and my battle skill will force the greedy fire-serpent to give up its gold, or I will be beaten in battle. And then death will take my life, for I will not run from my destiny. Weird always weaves as it must. If I could, I would bear no battle-sword or other war-weapon against this savage serpent. I would clasp the frightful fire-fiend with my mighty battle-grip, as I once clasped Grendel. But now I will have to face flaming fire and frightful fumes, and so I will wear my ring-meshed battle-shirt, and I will use an iron shield. I am eager to fight, and so I do not need to boast of my bold heart or my battle skill. And now, comrades, sit here upon lofty Eagle's Cliff, and permit me to go down to the barrow hall below and face the peril there, for this daring deed is not for you to do, though you are bold of heart and strong in strife. The task is mine alone." So Beowulf spoke to his 11 trusted war comrades. And so it came to pass that the old treasure-giving war-king, safeguard of the Geat folk, walked down the path that led to the treasure-guard's lonely lair. Beowulf carried his war-shield of gleaming iron beneath lofty Eagle's Cliff, for he was battle-bold and he was sure of his own strength and war-skill. No faint-hearted warrior would choose this fight. The entrance to the earth hall was not hidden now, for a sea-flood of flames was flowing forth from within the barrow, and the Lord of Rings knew that if he tried to enter the hall and approach the hoard heap of golden treasures, the fire-flood would burn him to death. Beowulf's heart flooded with a surging sea-swell of hatred toward the savage fire-serpent, and so he raised his voice in a battle-shout and angrily challenged the dreaded dragon to come forth to meet him in battle. His voice echoed off the stone walls in the barrow hall like the clanking of gleaming war gear. Beowulf's war cry caused the frightful fire-serpent's hard heart to flood with a surging sea-swell of rage. So now, its fiery breath burst forth from the barrow in a blazing torrent of furious flames. Even the rock beneath Beowulf's feet rumbled with their roar. The hoard guard then slithered forth from its lonely lair. And now the sight of Beowulf caused its hard heart to flood with a surging sea-swell of joy, for it was eager to meet its foe in battle and flood that warrior's heart with terror. The lord of the Geat folk raised his gleaming iron shield, and from its sheath he drew forth Naegling, his age-old, blood-hardened battle-sword. Then he waited, bold-hearted in his war-gear, while the frightful fire-fiend sent forth a blazing torrent of furious flames, and it coiled for battle. And as the dreaded dragon moved to meet its destiny, Beowulf approached his own destiny, for Weird would not grant the good old war-king good fortune in battle. Beowulf raised Naegling and struck the frightful fire-serpent with all of his strength. And Naegling sang its greedy war-song, but that age-old, blood-hardened war-weapon, that battle-friend of heroes, won no glory in this fight, for it could not bite through the fire-fiend's hard scales. And beaten in battle by that serpent's war-gear, Naegling's mighty blade became blunted. Beowulf was now beset by evils. Naegling had lost its strength, and Beowulf's gleaming shield could not guard his body and save his life, for it was melting beneath the seething flames of the savage serpent's fiery breath. Beowulf knew that he would not be able to boast of his battle skill and good fortune, for at last he faced death, that dreaded destiny. Beowulf knew that his long life, with its great glory and lasting fame, was no longer bright, but life at any age was worth living. Fame came second, and so, now that death, that dreaded destiny, was waiting to take him, Beowulf was unwilling to leave the earth. The old war-king did not want to make that last journey to a far-off dwelling place, yet all men must meet their destiny when their days on earth come to an end. It came to pass that Beowulf's battle-stroke only caused the dragon's hard heart to flood anew with a surging sea-swell of rage. And so, the savage serpent spewed forth a second blazing torrent of furious flames, and the old treasure-giving war-king, shield and spear of the Storm-Geats, found himself drowning in a frightful flood of fire. The Storm-Geats who had accompanied Beowulf, his band of bold-hearted and trusted war-comrades, watched the savage fire-serpent beat their king in battle, and their hearts flooded with surging sea-swells of horror, terror, and panic. They should have been loyal to their lord and king, and so they should have rushed to rescue him, but they thought only of saving their own lives. And so, swift as a warrior's sword-stroke, they rose from their places on lofty Eagle's Cliff and fled into the forest. Of Beowulf's 11 trusted war-comrades, only his nephew, young Wiglaf, was bold of heart and loyal. This would be the youth's first fight. He remembered all the honors his king had bestowed upon him, and he thought of the wealth and property of his kinfolk. "I cannot, with honor, repay my king's kindness by running away, he declared to himself. To let my king die without help is a crime without pardon. So Wiglaf spoke to himself. He knew that his war comrades would hear his words if he spoke to them, and so he unlocked his word hoard and he shouted, "Comrades, remember how, in the mead hall, we drank to our lord and king, who gave us our rings. We promised that, if he ever needed our help, we would repay him for our battle shirts, our helmets, and our war gear. Beowulf chose us to join him on this journey because of our bold hearts, our battle skills, and our delight in deeds of glory. Our treasure-giving king, that most bold-hearted and battle-skilled warrior, has won honor and glory by doing deeds of daring and danger. And so, alone, he expected to fell this frightful fire-fiend. But now he needs our bold hearts and our battle skills, and we must help him. God knows I would rather be enfolded in the fire-serpent's flaming fury than doomed to live like a faint-hearted warrior. And so, I will now go forth to help my lord and king." So Wiglaf spoke, and with these words he gripped his lindenwood shield, drew forth his sharp-bladed battle-sword, and ran toward Beowulf. Wiglaf's shield might scorch, and his sword might melt, but his spirit was of the strongest metal. Bold of heart and strong in strife, he would confront the savage fire-serpent's blazing breath and the stench of slaughter. So it came to pass that Wiglaf fought his way through the fiery fumes to his lord and king. And then he said, "Beloved Beowulf, remember how in your youth you swore to win honor and glory as long as life was yours? Now you must summon all your strength and save your life, and I will help you." So Wiglaf spoke, and at the sound of his words the savage fire-serpent's hard heart flooded anew with surging sea-swells of rage, and it wrapped these war-comrades whom it loathed in its blazing breath. A frightful flood of flames scorched the lindenwood shield of the young warrior, and so Wiglaf sought refuge behind Beowulf's iron shield. Wiglaf's presence caused the old king's mind once again to flood with thoughts of glory, and once again Beowulf's heart flooded with a surging sea-swell of hatred toward the savage fire-serpent. Swift as a warrior's sword-stroke and with youthful battle-might, Beowulf raised Naegling and rushed to meet his foe. The mighty war-weapon sang its greedy war-song as it tore through the serpent's head-scales and into its soft flesh. Naegling's blood-thirsting battle-blade gave the serpent a sore battle-wound, but not one that doomed it to death. And then that blood-hardened battle-blade betrayed the old war-king in his time of greatest need, in this, his last battle. That treasured war-weapon, that battle-friend of heroes, won no glory, for its broad, blunted blade broke, beaten in battle by Beowulf's foe. It was Beowulf's destiny that the mightiest man-made sword would never bring him good fortune in battle. His hand was too strong to wield that war-weapon, and so his heart now flooded with a surging sea-swell of despair, and he withdrew from the wounded fire-serpent, knowing now that he would be beaten in battle. Seeing its foe retreat, the savage fire-serpent attacked Beowulf for the third time. Again it spewed forth a blazing torrent of furious flames, but now it rushed upon the old war-king, gripped him by the throat, and sank its fierce, blood-thirsting fangs into his neck-flesh. And Beowulf's life-blood rushed forth from his blood-smeared body like a surging sea-swell.